Test, test. Good morning, everyone. If you would fix your attention to the podium, I'm going to do hopefully a 30-minute presentation or less. Can everyone hear me all right? A lot of thumbs back in the back. You can hear me? Very good, thank you. So my name is Don Yaden. I'm with the company SymAgro Incorporated. We're located in Visalia, California, so I'm a transplant here. Beautiful location. I appreciate the invitation. I am the California, Arizona, and Hawaii sales manager for this company. So I kind of got the gravy job of all the salespeople in the company, and I appreciate the chance to be able to come to an island as nice as this one. Now, when I'm sitting in Exeter, California, when the temperature is 115 degrees, I don't quite feel that way. But I appreciate the opportunity to come over here. SymAgro has been in the business for over 10 years, and it's a biochemical company. And you see a tagline that says, effective, sustainable solution for ag. That's a buzzword we hear a lot anymore, sustainable solutions, and I don't know if we all know what it means. Maybe really what we're trying to say is feeding the present without starving the future. That makes a lot of sense to us, that whatever we do, we need to recognize that the future could be paying for some of the stuff we're doing, and so that's the purpose of a SymAgro Incorporated, that we are an alternative chemical company that specializes working in specialty ag crops as well as horticulture, and we have biologicals, we have biochemicals, we have a combination of pesticides and biostimulants. So this is a pretty good snapshot of our product line. I know it's a lot of pretty pictures up there. It looks like a nice salad, but the two rows to the left are all Armory certified products. The three on the right are basically synthetic, but each one of these have a snapshot that would say sustainability, that it's good for now and it's even going to be better for the future. And so the purpose of showing this slide is not all the things we're doing, but we want you to know that every compound we have goes through a critical value evaluation. That critical value is not just in efficacy. That critical value is not just on what it does to the environment. That critical value is how it does to the plant that you're trying to grow your fruit on. So we want to make sure we don't compromise photosynthesis in quality and quantity. We want to make sure that we don't compromise the plant's ability to store energy in lipids and fats. We want to make sure that we don't compromise the plant's ability to trigger downstream metabolites that's going to help be a lifter in supporting its plant's defense against diseases and insects and abiotic and biotic stresses. So that's sustainability to us. But today, with all these chemicals up here, I'm here to talk about one compound today, Problad Verde fungicide. Problad Verde fungicide is a new multi-site fungicide. It's great to put in a platform for decisive management when you're trying to control something that requires a program rather than just killing the disease. So some of the keys about it, it actually comes from the lupinus plant. Its active ingredient is called BLAD, B-L-A-D. Just call it BLAD because it stands for Banded Lupinus alpus dosi. And there's no reason to spit all that out. So from here on out, you're going to know it as BLAD, B-L-A-D. It's a 20% or 20 kilodalton product. It doesn't have any MRLs, which is sustainable. How many MRLs do your customers want in their coffee? 0. That's the life that we're in right now. They don't want to see any residues. This is a product that is toxic to its to its pathogen target, but it's not toxic to the environment. It's not toxic to the humans. It's got a 4-hour reentry. It's got a 1-day PHI, so it's a really safe compound. So it has a FRAC code. I don't know if you guys are into FRAC codes or not, but FRAC codes is what the committee basically would tag on where it goes for categories as far as resistance. Started out as B12, and now it's BMO1, And BMO1 just means that it's a biological with multi-site. Biodegradable. 2.5 days is you got half-life in the soil, so you know it's going to naturally break down by microbial degradation. So you don't have to worry about it hanging around. So key dates. 2011, the master label was approved in Hawaii for certain crops, mostly fruiting vegetables, cucurbits, stone fruit, etc. A lot of the products are crops you don't grow here. But the magic date was on April 13th, 2022, when we got a section 24C, which is a special needs label for coffee to control coffee leaf rust. So it's milestone paramount. That's the reason I'm here today, to talk about that. So why is this product so unique? It's unique because of its performance, disease prevention. It not only prevents the disease, but it has curative action. It's got reach back up to 7 days. Some say 8, but I'm going to say 7 days, which means it's got the ability to take out an expression, a minor expression. This is a preventing compound that you want to use it as. I keep hitting the button, I'm sorry. It's got translaminar properties, which is huge when you start talking about coffee leaf rust. Duration of control is 10 to 14 days. This is a natural chemistry. It's not alien to your plant. You remember at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about we want to be safe. We want your plants to be safe. Well, this is one of the things that's unique about this chemistry is because it's a chemistry that the plants recognize as being friendly, and they don't have any defense mechanisms to keep it from getting in the plant. There is a word that I'm going to throw out at you called ergosterol. Ergosterol is basically the plant's version of cholesterol. And what it does is that it is an image in your mind that you can think that it's a signal that goes to the plant's immune system. A lot of synthetic chemicals will affect ergosterol because basically that's what helps with the homeostasis of the plant. And so it affects how it gets into the plant or how it gets into the disease because everything's got a homeostasis to it. In other words, how it functions. Ergosterol is important. And most synthetic chemistries affect that. When it affects the signal. So it doesn't trigger the secondary metabolites that's in the plant. That's called pathogenicity chemistry that supports it from the plant itself. So we're leveraging the plant to help us defeat diseases, abiotic, and biotic stresses. So that's some of the things that's neat about natural chemistry. Okay, translaminar. It goes through the cells and goes through the cytoplasm. I don't need to talk in detail much about that. It's a really strong translaminar product. So what makes it decisive? It's a multi-site product. When I tell you, we'll show you how it works, you'll understand what it means by multi-site. It's unlike most biofungicides because we know exactly how it works. That's not the case on a lot of other biofungicides. We don't always know how they work. If I was to ask Reggie or Kevin or some of the people in there, how does a serenade work or how does a biological work? We really don't know exactly what it does, but we know it works in time. This product, we know exactly how it's going to function on the disease, and that's kind of unique for a biochemical. And I keep hitting the button, I apologize. It stops and kills the life stages. It's fast-acting. It'll stop the cell, the disease cell, the culture will not be able to be identified after 8 hours. Within 12 to 24, it'll kill that cell if it gets to it. Broad spectrum works on fungi, works on bacteria, both positive and negative bacteria. Again, the translaminar, and it's got extremely low resistance potential because of its multi-site. This is exactly how it works. I want you to pay attention to this slide, please. I guess ask you a favor, would you pay attention to the slide, because this tells you exactly how it works. It's important to know this. So here's what goes on. Because it has an affinity to chitin, and chitin is in every fungal cell wall, it binds to the chitin and then works through the chitin, gets through the cell wall, but it's not lethal. Then it gets into basically the cell membrane, and because it has pectin activity, it gets into the cytoplasm. Again, it's not lethal. Once it gets inside the cytoplasm, That's when the magic happens. All of your, basically your divalent cations, all of your metals, iron, manganese, copper, zinc, calcium, magnesium is really important for a plant's homeostasis, or excuse me, for diseases homeostasis, to be able to use those metals to be able to have downstream metabolic processes for reproduction and production. It chelates every one of those metals, disrupts the entire process, and that's the reason that you have quick death. But it's not just because you chelate, it's because this oxidative stress that's triggered because the disease cell knows that it's a short time before it's going to expire. It doesn't want that cell to be taking any more nutrition away from the other cells around it not affected. So what you get, an ROS event, you get an apoptic death, which is very complete and very quick. So that's how it works. It's simple, but it works every time that way. So pH in the tank, for you guys that's going to be spraying it, it's got a wide range, 4 to 8. And you can see with some of the trials, pH 4, 5, 6, 7, efficacy is the same across the board. Not really, really important. However, I want to identify one quick nuance. This nuance, because its active ingredient is a polypeptide amino acid, it has a quirk. I'm going to call it a nuance, but it's got a quirk. At 5.5 pH, it's isoelectric, which means it doesn't have a charge, negative or positive. It collapses. If it doesn't have a charge, it doesn't have the ability to chelate. Doesn't affect the tank mix as far as compatibility, etc. It just affects the efficacy. So you can see, I don't know if I have a pointer on here, but over on the bar on the left, you see pH 5, works great. You see pH 5.5, no activity. You see pH 6, perfect, works great. So it's not uncommon for amino acids and polypeptides to have this nuance. It's probably not a big deal, but it's important. Don't land on 5.5. You can land on 5.49 on the way there, and you can land on 5.5 on the way through it. Just don't land on 5.5. It's a nuance. You know it now, and not a big deal, but I felt that you need to know that. So if you land on 5.5, you know what happens. So the chances of landing on 5.5 aren't very good. So there is a summation model to the chances that you would land on 5.5, and it's not real high. So compatibility, you can mix it with most fertilizers, including organic fertilizers. It's not an issue. So what's this target? Well, we're going to go after spores. We're going to go after basically hyphae. We're going to go after Hosteria. It'll take care of those if it hits them. It's not going to do anything to the thicker cells like the teleospores, and it's not really necessary because that's not included really in the reinfection, but it's effective on each one of those. This is a model that I'm going to have at my booth. If you want to stop in and take a look at it, it's pretty busy, but it's important to recognize that if you're going to use any fungicides, that you've got to map out how it works and how to use it in rotation. So I'm going to call this mode of action compatibility. So if you want to look closer at it, so I've got Probal at the top. It works on spores, works on conidia, works on hyphae, works on mycelium. Doesn't retard the growth. It kills it. It doesn't regulate it. It works on sporulation, and it's systemic. So Reggie, look at this one for the Priaxor. You got two different chemistries in that bottle. You got a 7 and 11. Both of them got certain properties. You can see over here on the nose, that basically on the 11s, you're blocking respiration in the mitochondria respiration cycle. You're blocking it at, I think, probably phase 2. So what happens is that you're not controlling the hyphae, you're not controlling the mycelium, you're not retaining any growth issues, and you don't have any sporulation control. So you better have a product in there that's going to fill in where the nose are at. And that's what happens when you look at the SDHI. See how they come across? You got the no-nos and the yeses, That's called gap management. And that's what you want to do. ProBlad gives you a great product to do gap management with any compound you're using. So here's one on using products that's like curatives. So I'm going to say oxidizers, etc. So oxidate would be a compound you guys use here a lot, or Jet Ag. Or we have a product called Cinerates of Formaldehyde. They're oxidizers. You see where they work good up to, but they don't work on the Hosteria very well. They certainly don't prevent sporulation. They're not translaminar. They're just a surface cleaner. They're going to set that plant back to zero. So when you start doing your interval spraying, setting up your programs, these are all things you need to take a look at so that you don't have any gaps in it. And it's about keeping the disease from sporulating and recreating itself. That's what it's about. Tanks mix, we talked about it, compatibility-wise, you're not gonna have any problems. It mixes with most fungicides, insecticides. Be very careful if you got a live spore in a tank. There'll be more to talk about there, but this is a fungicide, and if you're putting in a tank that's got a live spore, make sure if you haven't done a test on it that you don't put it in the tank very long. Put it in the tank and spray it immediately. So you got products that you probably do that with. Botanigard might be one of them. Broad range of 4.8. We talked about the pH 5.5. Surfactant. We have surfactants in the jug already, but if you feel like you need surfactants, which we have no issue with, silicon surfactant or a good surfactant's fine. Let's talk about Rainfast. This is a really water-soluble product. If you got 2 to 3 hours to dry it, if anything happens that you get rains after that, especially within 12 hours, a heavy, heavy rain, you're probably going to have to respray in about 4 days, unless you put new film P with it. Is the Miller guy in here? No, okay, that's who represents new film P. If you put new film P with it, that changes this whole model. It extends the rainfast hours to double, and you probably get to normal rotation if you put it with it if you get a heavy rain. You know, I don't know why this thing moves on its own. I think it moves by heat. Disease control expectation, you're going to control what you hit with it. If you're targeting those phases of the disease, that it's acceptable to target. Anything that's got a real thick wall on it's a little harder to kill. So you get your best controls starting early, staying early. I think I'm probably about out of time. I don't know what time it is, but I think I'm about close to my 30 minutes. I want to mention one other product. I won't have time to talk anymore about ProBlad or answer questions, but we'll have a booth here to answer questions for you to stop by and pick up additional data. But I want to talk about this product right here for a minute. Instill copper. It is registered in California or in Hawaii. A lot of people use it in other crops. However, let's get to this slide right here. These are all the coppers that's being used in coffee. Some of them maybe you're not using all of them, but this is how it works. Instill copper does not have the coffee label on it. It's coming. And when it does, it'll be the product to use because it has superior systemic movement into the cuticle, which means also into the stomata, which is where coffee leaf rust likes to sporulate. This is the only copper will do it, and it's because of that box down here on the bottom right-hand corner. It's copper sulfate pentahydrate. Nothing fancy about that. Nothing sexy about that at all. It's just a regular copper. But we wrap 2 chelations around it, drop the pH down to 5.5 to 6.5 so that it can move into the plant. And when it moves into the plant, that plant grabs the hold of it and makes sure that it's not going to get out of control and cause toxicity. It doesn't have to do that with this product because it's got 2 chelations around it, and the natural chelation from the plant doesn't have to go into it. A lot of misinformation about copper on the leaf. Copper on the leaf is where you get your toxic phyto issues. It's not inside the plant. The plant's going to control that. So within 3 to 4 hours, this product will be in the plant. You don't have rainfast issues. Keep this one on your radar. It's going to be a great foundational product. With that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much. If you've got questions, come see me at the booth, and I'll turn it back over to the people in charge, and nice to talk to you this morning. Thank you.